there's a lot of people out there that's indicating that Dwight Howard is not a Hall of Famer, but Dwight Howard is definitely a Hall of Famer. I know a lot of people, don't like him. I know his reputation is not, not that good nowadays, and the way he left Orlando and the way he departed from L.A. Him and Kobe, getting into it, and that's largely come from that is that he rejected the Lakers because he thought that he was supposed to, I guess he was promised he was going to get the keys from Kobe Bryant when Kobe Bryant retired, or as Kobe Bryant kind of diminish a little bit, but that wasn't the case. And Dwight Howard, he did not want to play under Kobe. He wanted to at least play alongside of Kobe as Kobe last couple years. But Kobe, he didn't want to give Dwight Howard the keys. That's not Kobe Bryant's makeup. He wanted Dwight Howard to take it from him. But a lot of people say this man is not a Hall of Famer. But I'm gonna read off some things some accomplishments that make Dwight Howard a Hall of Famer, and the linealship. I'm gonna use a boxing term. The bloodline that he comes from. A lot of great big men. To me, Dwight Howard was the last, of the great big men, traditional big men that dominated down low. Dwight Howard was offensively, he wasn't dominant, but he did, his career average points, I believe, just under 20 points a game. But his defense was outstanding. He was drafted in 2004, number 1 overall. Dwight Howard did come from high school. He was an 8-time All-Star. He was a 5-time rebounding champion. He was a 2 times block champion, so that solidifies that he was a dominant defender in his era. He was an 8 All-NBA team selection. He won the Defensive Player of the Year 3 times, so like I said, that solidified him as being the top big man defensively in that era right after Ben Wallace. Him and Ben Wallace in that era was the 2 top dogs in that era. And Dwight Howard was the recipient after Ben Wallace as being the most dominant big man. He averaged 20 and 13 4 years. He averaged a double 14 years in a row and counting. He had a pretty good year for Charlotte. He had a pretty good year for Atlanta. It's just the way he departed those teams, people didn't take into account that he had pretty good years there. And with Houston Rockets he did, and he came out and said recently in an interview, said that he was injured, which I knew that he was coming off a major back injury when he went to LA that he came back early from. So Dwight Howard, he did go to the NBA Finals when he beat LeBron James, in 2000. I believe that was 2008 season. Somebody had correct me on that, like 2008 season, 2009, somewhere up in there. I remember looking at the series. I remember in Game 2, LeBron James hit the game-winning shot. Then after that, Orlando took over the series and won the series. But this is the bloodline that Dwight Howard come from. I see him in the same. I'm not saying he's as great as these centers, but I see him in the same class as these centers. George Mikan was the original big man, and then you got Wilt Chamberlain. Then you got Bill Russell. You got Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You got Bill Walton. You got Bill Walton. You got Moses Malone. You got David Robinson. You got Patrick Ewing. You got Akeem Olajuwon. They all share the same era. Then you got Shaquille O'Neal. Then after Shaquille O'Neal, Dwight Howard is the next big man after Shaquille O'Neal. He's the next true big man after Shaquille O'Neal. Now, the only 2 people on the list that I named, right along with Dwight Howard, that does not have a championship is Patrick Ewing and Dwight Howard. So you don't have to have a championship to get in the Hall of Fame. It's a lot of Hall of Famers in the Hall of Fame that doesn't have championship rings. I think a lot of these young guys, they believe that you got to have a ring or multiple rings to get in the Hall of Fame, but you don't. It's more stat individually based. I mean, a ring can help you if you like on the fringe. A ring can help you. Like Ben Wallace, I don't believe Ben Wallace is on the fringe. I believe Ben Wallace was a dominant defender, rebounder, and a shot blocker in his day. But him having that title with Detroit helps him a lot. Now, he did not get in this past Hall of Fame selection, but I believe Ben Wallace will get in next year or the year after. But I believe Dwight Howard should be a first ballot Hall of Famer, because like I said, he dominated for about 5 years, 5 or 6 years. He dominated as the top big man. So he had a period of time to where he was the man, you know, the number one big man. You know, some guys dominated a little bit longer than him. Some guys had a 10-year run. Some guys had an 8-year run, something like that. But in his era, he had it held down. So Dwight Howard is definitely a Hall of Famer. He's to me, in my book, he's definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer, and he's the last great big man, in my opinion, that played the traditional big man, which played in the paint, dominated the paint from 15 and in. You know, he had a couple moves down low. He was not vastly, didn't have a lot of moves, you know, like Elijah Wan or Patrick Ewing, but he did score enough to be able to, you know, keep teams honest. And, you know, he commanded the double team. Anytime you command a double team, man, you're a dominant player. That's when you know you're a dominant player, when they got a double team. But let me know what y'all think, man. Subscribe to the channel, man. I'm out.